really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard. Which is what, seriously speaking, is all about.
Hello there. My name is Adesuwa, and this is Seriously Speaking. On the show today, we shall be examining the issue of one word and a term that became very popular in the past few months during the run-up to the presidential elections and after. An inclusive government. What does it mean when someone says, I will run an inclusive government? I decided to bring in 3 experts, professionals in their own right, but also people who are not politicians to the extent that they don't run for political office, but the observers to look at what are the indices that makes one government inclusive. At the same time, we shall be examining the issues that came out of the just concluded elections, the ones that we all experienced that kept us at home, waiting to see if Nigeria would disintegrate, and it didn't. We are glad about that. But what are the lessons and the takeaways from that? We shall be speaking seriously in a short while if you don't go away. This is Seriously Speaking. Yes, welcome back. My first guest on the show today is somebody I respect because of his good oratorial skills and also good production and direction skills. He's the CEO of Zulu Films, but beyond that, he's an award-winning journalist, a graduate of theater arts, who also has a master's in international law and diplomacy, and has run series of workshops on all kinds of social issues, whether it's politics or film development. My first guest today is called Zik Zulu Okafor. It's nice to have you here. I remember Heaven's Gate. I remember, well, that was one of the things. You don't call yourself an actor, but I'm glad to have you, though. You remain an actor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, Zik, I saw you about sometime during the elections. I saw you in I saw you in Delta State.
Yes.
And I remember seeing you at the airport and saying, what are you doing here? You said, I'm just observing. I said, are you a politician? You said, no. And I ask you again, are you a politician?
A political consultant, more or less, and a political scholar.
You spent most of the past 5 or 6 years doing that, because actually, because you did some consulting for our former president.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yeah.
You did, the general. So tell me, I find your name interesting, Zulu Zik Okafor. Are you from South Africa by some strange?
I'm from Delta State. Zik. My father named him Namdi Azikiwe, after the great Zik. And Zulu is Onyeko wa Zulu.
Oh.
Yes.
So I thought maybe he liked South Africans or something. Yeah. But would you ever be interested in politics to run for political position?
Certainly. I am interested in politics. I believe I have a responsibility, personal responsibility to play a role in the course of the political life of this country. I'm looking forward to it.
So do you think that's a thought or an idea or a way that we should be to be able to to be able to monitor governance properly, for us to be political instead of apolitical?
No, you don't really have to be political. It could be apolitical. It could be a political scholar just interested in studying politics and then educating people. Mm-hmm. You could be both. I have always been interested. I have worked as a writer, journalist, looking at politics, became political consultant, power consultant. Now, I am getting closer. I was a media director for Great Ogbaru campaign organization at Labour Party, Delta State. So we're getting closer, and I'm sure we'll get there.
But tell me though, growing up, what are the values growing up? Because I wonder why you ended up studying theater arts, then you went to diplomacy, and then you are now, in the world of film and entertainment as well as politics.
As would be expected as an art student, my father wanted me to study law. There was no question about it. But I didn't do, because I thought I was actually going to study abroad, I didn't do JAMB when I was supposed to. But when I couldn't get my visa to go to the US at the time I wanted to go in 1981 or so, I was compelled to do something else. I wanted to go to the university, to Zion Academy in Liberia to do my HSC. Before I was invited for a special exam, and I did, and I was given admission at the University of Ibadan, and theater arts was what was, was the thing available. I had to do that. But again, working as a journalist in the course of my career, I encountered Alhaji, then Minister of Finance. He was just made the Foreign Affairs Director. And to ban the Sadana of Sokoto. I had to spend about 9 hours at his gate to have access to him. So when he saw me about 5 a.m. in the morning, having seen me around 9, he thought I was tenacious and invited me over to his office. And after interviewing him, he told me, you have lived up to your name, but I want you to do something. I think you should study international law and diplomacy so that you could come work with us and contribute your own quota to making the image and representation of this country beyond the shores of this country.
I think he appreciated your tenacity.
I guess so, yes.
Is the tenacity by accident or you inherited it from your father?
Maybe more from my mom, you know, who has always told people lived a silent code of courage and contentment, and and had a very strong personal convictions about what she wanted to do. And so when she makes her mind about what she wanted to do, she's always tenacious about it. And she taught me to be resilient. So I more or less, I think it's from my mom.
How is that resilience built up? Because you see, you tell me that when you just got out of school, you were not thinking about trying to get a job.
Yeah.
Or there were no jobs and there was no hope.
Yeah, well, when we left university in 1987, 1998, Nigeria was almost at a standstill. Everything was stiff. And it was just NTA and NTA 10, NTA network. It was just a few banks. It was such a small circuit. So how was I going to get a job? First, I tried to write a few scripts for NTA, for which you are paid 87 naira, and it's going to take about 3-4 months for you to get the money. So my whole attitude was get to America and start doing things.
Oh, so you were still bent on going to America?
Oh, yes, going to America was it. But again, I was denied the chance to go to America. So in the course of my service, one of the boys I was using for a drama on the life of Nelson Mandela died of tetanus infection. So that spurred me to do a research on child tragedy. And then I came up with the script, Save the Children.
Oh, that was the first
Yeah, that
production.
was how I got to encounter NTA, UNICEF, working together, and my journey into drama, television, and film had begun.
You're still producing. You have a soap, Heaven's Grace was very successful.
Yes.
This ran on television for years.
Yes.
And it was a Christian soap opera.
Yes.
How did you pull that through?
Well, as I always say, we were convinced we could market God and that God will sell because people believe in God.
But was it easy?
It wasn't, because when we went to the prospective sponsors, they said they don't touch anything that has to do with religion because Nigeria is a plural society. They don't want to touch it. But when it came on air and they saw it, they saw that even though it was a Christian soap, it had a lot to offer the society. But then we had to go on our own with our sponsor for a long time. It was only 2 years ago that we commercialized the program.
So that's the tenacity again.
Yes, and it's been successful. Now we have the sequel to Heaven's Gate, which is Oasis, running now in AIT and GSTV.
So tell me, you talk about the plurality of our society.
Yeah.
Now, how well did you see this play out, for example, well or good in the dispensation, especially because you are a mature adult, you've seen a lot of political dispensations. This last one, the Fifth Republic, how did it go? And you were active on the field this time.
Tragically, what we see was a crystal division. It was it was like there's a gulf between the regions, or the what do you call it now, these political zones. Because you see, Buhari's votes came basically from the north. Then with support from the southwest, a partner in APC. And then the incumbent president, had his votes from southeast, south-south. It doesn't tell a good story of our journey after 60 years. It's not a good story of where we are coming from.
So, but that's what's causing the talk of an inclusive government, I suppose.
Yeah.
Thinking about, if you have to create, if this kind of situation exists, it means everybody has to be, the salve has to be put on the hurts.
Yeah. You see, it's not easy to just talk about inclusive government. You see, because there are certain basic things, fundamentals that have to be addressed. Because in this election, the APC fought PDP with the strength of a lion, the wisdom of a serpent, and the justice of nemesis. The combination of these awful three created the unprecedented in Nigeria. And that's a case where the incumbent president was defeated.
That's what brought change.
It's the first time. It's the first time. So, but you see, that came with a lot of acrimony, acidic language, corrosive air. So there's an abyss separating the zones, even among the political class. So if you're going to talk about inclusive government, something is more important. The president-elect, who will become the president, has to do certain things. First, he has to establish himself as a man with an untainted, unwavering integrity. He has to show transparency, honesty of purpose, and then decisive in his action.
One of the reasons I invited you, I mean,
Yes.
I'll stop because I would like to engage this more when we have other parties to contribute to it,
Yes.
was the fact that we're more or less like on the ground. We talk about Nigeria as if it's only the national level that is important. You're on the ground in Delta State.
Yes.
There were also issues of people from different parties and different ethnic groups
Yes.
pursuing one dream.
Yes.
So this issue of division was also there at that level.
Yes. Yeah, well, in a way, yes, because in Delta, people are want to tell you that Delta has been ruled by the Delta Central
For too long.
James Ibori, and now Delta South, Udara, the outgoing governor. And that's naturally, they say, is a turn of Delta North. Incidentally, I am from Delta North.
But you're working with somebody from
But
Central.
I am supporting a candidate from Delta Central because, you see, I am looking forward to a pan-Deltan leader. I will not confine myself to the narrow-mindedness of thinking about tribes with all my civilization and exposure.
Even on the ground, even at that low level, we still think like this. You said, as educated as you are, you will not think like that.
Yes.
Isn't that a sign that there's a lot of work still to be done in our country?
A lot.
But we can't ignore it.
No. And that's why I was talking about the incoming president, because it's his responsibility. Once it's established, his integrity and pan-Nigerianness and honesty of purpose, Nigerians are going to queue behind him. Even his genuine
Even the
mistakes.
states, then it don't matter even at the state level?
Yeah. Yes. Once they see that honesty of purpose. Because I'll give you an example. I supported him first election, second election, third election. You see, because I've always seen him that, one, you can't take it away from him. He's a man with a very strong convictions. Lives a very austere life. When Nigerians see him now, after all he knows about the elections, when he comes and they see that this is the kind of man we'll be looking for,
So the
Nigerians will
issue
keep
at hand
behind
is,
him.
let's forget that it's one person or the other. The issue
Yes.
at hand is whoever is
Yes.
going to move this nation forward is somebody who will think pan.
Nigeria must be detribalized, must show Nigerians that I have come to bring about change in the real sense of the word, not sophistry.
So that change that we require in Nigeria is...
The change we require in Nigeria is a leader that will understand who we are and inspire us, reconstruct our values, because our values are disappearing. We
Okay,
need to
I
bring
wonder,
back our
if
values.
my other panelists will agree with you
Yeah.
on that, because I tend to feel like, yes, the leader, what about the rest of us? We have responsibilities, but hold that thought.
Yeah.
I'll ask you to hold that thought. I'll take a break so I can engage my other guests on the show.
Okay.
And then we will return to the panel to discuss this. Thank you very much, Zik. I prefer to call you, or Diokba. I'll be back in a short while with my next guest, who makes most of his comment online. And he's been on this show before, incidentally, 2 quarters ago. So we'll take a break and I'll be back. Yes, welcome back to the studios. I have, for the second time on Seriously Speaking, but with an entirely different set, I have Okechukwu Ofili, a young man I found online because of his tart and tacit writings about occurrences in Nigeria. So it was that I was reading something sometime in April, and he was commenting on the way and the lessons that Nigerians can learn from the way we have voted by just using the numbers. Well, this young man is an engineer, so I wouldn't blame him. It's my pleasure to have Okechukwu Philly back on the set. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you very much.
And this time we didn't keep you waiting too long, right?
No.
But I mean, when I saw that, I'm going to put that up at some point in time. I mean, I'll let people see a little bit of that, a snapshot of that page. You had given the impression that you looked at the numbers and the numbers were telling you something. Were they disheartening or were they just startling?
I don't think it's disheartening. I think it's the reality. And we have to face that reality that, for the most part, people voted against, along the ethnic background of the presidents or where they came from. But however, there were 2 zones, the Southwest zone and the North Central zone, that didn't follow that trend. And it could be because they are more integrated or more diverse than other regions. But for the most part, that's what the numbers said.
You know, that they were more diverse. You know, again, you say it's not disheartening to you, but what does that imply for Nigeria and for Nigerians?
It means that the next president and the next administration has a lot of work to do. I think for the most part, Nigeria has tried to deal with this ethnicity issue by keeping quiet, hoping that it would go away one day. But I think with this government, especially for APC, they would have a lot of work to do in pulling in the Southeast and the South-South zone to make them feel like they're part of their organizations, make them feel like they're part of their administration. So it's going to be having to look at Nigeria as a holistic point of view. You can't say, well, Rivers State didn't vote for us, so we're not going to take care of Rivers State. Rivers State is critical because of the oil industry. So you have to treat people evenly, regardless of what party they voted.
What were your experiences in the past 4 months in Nigeria, riding up to these elections? I'm just curious.
It's a lot of tension. I debate a lot on Facebook, and if you criticize Buhari, people assume you criticize Buhari because I'm from the Southeast. People would make up things like, oh, so you think I'm supporting Buhari because I'm from Southwest. So there are a lot of these ethnic tones that tend to get ugly a lot of times. But I think as we start evolving as people, and those things would die out, and that's my hope. But leading up to this election, there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of fear of violence. And I think Goodluck, by accepting defeat the way he did, set a precedence, and you can see it happening with the governors. And it's really, you know, when you talk about that inclusion, it's really up to us to come and also do that. It's not about saying, oh, my party won, or this party didn't win. We have to all come to the table and say, my candidate lost, but I'm still going to support whoever is in power.
Well, were you able to get a PVC? Did you vote?
Yes. I picked up my PVC. That was hectic on its own because where I registered in 2011 was different from where I live in 2015. So my family and I, we had to wake up early, beat the curfew, spend money in a hotel.
That's before 7?
Before 8, just so we could vote. We spent 22,500 naira just to exercise our right to vote. So I think that PVC collection and PVC distribution is one thing that INEC didn't get right. I know we want to commend them for the great job, but we shouldn't also forget to give them positive feedback to make it better.
But I'm glad that you say your family decided that they must cast their votes.
Yes.
But what you find is that people didn't think like that.
No.
Is that an indication of how we feel? People say you get the kind of government that you deserve.
People have felt for the longest time that their votes haven't counted. And when you look at the results in 2007, for example, you start and you see, compare it to the results we see in 2015, it's like millions of Nigerians disappeared from the face of Nigeria. That's how it is. It's like those numbers are crunched up. So for a lot of people, they didn't feel like their votes would count. But what Jega has done, with what Goodluck has done, and with what Buhari hopefully will do in his administration, I think people will start realizing the power of their vote. Look at Lagos, for example. ACN won Lagos State by 1.2 million plus votes.
In 2011.
And this year it was less than 160,000 votes. So votes count. Things change, and that's why Buhari is in power now, because of the power of the votes.
But at what point did you start looking at those numbers? Were you one of those that sat in front of the television writing down 1.2 million, 1 point this?
I started looking at the numbers even before the election started. The PVC, even from the way the PVC was distributed, it was advantage Buhari because in his strongholds, in his strong zones, they had PVC collection rates of up to 90%.
Wasn't that fishy? Did you went to one of those that thought that was fishy?
It's fishy, but at the same time, it makes sense. Because when you look at the way they set up the PVC collection based on where you collected your PVC in 2011, you start realizing that states like Lagos are at a disadvantage. I categorize Lagos as a transient state. People are in Lagos, they are moving consistently. Another state that had very low PVC collection rates was Ogun State. They actually had the lowest. And if you look at Ogun State, you start realizing it's an educational state. So a lot of people go to Ogun State for school. So after they finish in 2011 or 2012, they go back to where they came from. So if you're telling them to vote, it's going to be almost impossible. Edo State also had low rates. It could be because they didn't have gubernatorial elections this year, so they weren't motivated. So yes, there's some fishy aspects to it, but at the same time,
it makes sense. I mean, now you say it, come to think of it, the chances that people in that region would have moved from their location in 2011 are slimmer than the chances of people in these parts where, because of financial reasons,
they're always moving.
You're going away to look for. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. But I mean, are you a hopeful Nigerian? Remain so, even with all of these things?
Yes, it has to, because again, this election is about Buhari because he won. I mean, he was consistent, he was dogmatic. But the standing action by Goodluck in relinquishing power, it gives a lot of hope that no matter who you are, you can be voted out by the people. So it shifts the power from the government to the people. And I think when the people feel they have the power, they would feel more inclusive, and I think it would keep our nation back. What has held Nigeria back for too long is dictatorship and government not willing to let go of power.
So what drives you as a person that you still run this, your blog? It's not a blog. What do you call the thing?
Phillyspeaks.com.
Is it a blog?
It's a blog.
Okay, I mean, that's your thoughts and your processes, and, I mean, what drives you? And, would politics ever be something that you would want to do?
I don't...
Active politics, because this is some kind of politics, isn't it?
I would say that I've approached several people to join a particular party. I won't talk about
because
what
people should
party
register in some parties. We keep talking, but nobody says I'm a member of this party or that party.
Yes, because politics has been seen for a long time as something negative.
Or something other people do.
Other people do, but something negative. They're associated with, like if you come up and you say a politician, people think all politicians in Nigeria are bad. That is the perception. So, but as time goes on, when we see a leader, and I'm hoping that it happens now with Buhari in power, when we see a leader that shows the integrity, the service that politicians have, it might get more people to be bold to say, I am part of this party, or I'm part of that party. But for me, back to your question, what really drives me, I write on my blog, I write on Why Naija, I write on Bella Naija. But for me, it's just clarifying.
Helping people see better.
Yes. I don't like the biases because, with politics, people make claims and counter claims that aren't true. And for me, I just have a job to tell the truth from my own perspective.
But your day job still holds?
Yes.
Hopefully, you're going to join one political party soon. I just wonder, who are those that are going to, populate the political parties?
Well, we already have them. I mean, APC won because they engaged the youths. They pull a Glock of the Why Naija people and they pull them in, and several other people. So I think it's getting there, and it's going to get better based on what happened in this election.
So are you one of those that believe an inclusive government is necessary?
It's absolutely necessary. But when people think about inclusive government, they think about the government coming in and pulling them in. When I think about inclusive government, I think about having an opportunity to get up and go to the government and helping the government. People are talking about what Buhari is going to do, but also fail to realize that now that he's in power, we also have to change. Hold
that thought. Like I said, because I don't want to perish all that thought until we're together discussing this and sharing ideas. Thank you very much. I call you Ofili. Was that what they called you in high school, Ofili?
Ofili, yes.
Okay, I'll take a break and I'll return with my third guest. And then after that, we shall engage on the panel. Stay tuned. My next guest on this segment is a powerful speaker, but she's one of the most humble people that I know. Maybe also one of the most misunderstood Nigerians. But one thing is when she opens her mouth, that she talks with authority is no doubt. Because she's somebody who, from when she was young, she knew that causing change is what her life is about. Change in individuals that can help others to move. And she chose the turf of the youth. And she has succeeded so well in that area. But she's originally a lawyer. Her name is Toyosi Akerele. Toyosi, that's what I mean. When you talk Toyosi, you talk Arise. When you talk Toyosi, you talk of the Rise Network, and you talk of what she's done in the area of the youth. But more recently, she was part, in some ways, of the presidential campaign for the incumbent president. It's my pleasure to have you today, Toyosi.
Thank you very much.
Your husband will kill me for not calling his name today. So you're now Mrs.
Ogunshiji.
Proudly. But I would have thought you would not even marry. You were so busy for the past 8 years or more. You've been busy on the field mobilizing youth.
Well, in the end, it would be more than just whether I would have gotten married or not. It would be that in the end, leaders have souls. I'm married to a man that I absolutely, more than loving him, I respect. And I feel, in the real sense of the word, maybe I feel a bit complete. At least for some, there's a reason for me to go back home early these days. There's someone to look forward to, and somebody ultimately to defer to.
You know, because people say women who are strong, women who are vocal, women, no man can keep them.
But you see, Maya Angelou said that I am a woman. Nothing human can be alien to me. So love, sex, family, extremely important to some of us. In fact, I believe that if women put the very drive, the very quantum of drive that they put into their careers and their work, that level of commitment that we dedicate to our careers and our work, if we put it into our marriage, maybe oftentimes we will probably succeed more than we ever thought.
What do you think about the whole run-up to the elections, and why did you choose to work on the presidential campaign? You were one of the directors on that campaign.
Yeah. You see, number one, and it's a good thing to be here because oftentimes our intentions, misunderstood. Young people go into, government or go into opportunities as this one for two reasons. One, for the money. Two, for the experience.
What was it for you?
I went for the experience because I didn't go into the campaign poor. The people who knew me before the campaign knew that I was a pretty comfortable young entrepreneur
with your own printing.
Who by extension, I've also touched the lives of several young people in my own little way. So for me, the motivation wasn't to join. But I had understudied, I've been a leader since my primary school days. I was a primary school head girl. I became the youngest deputy speaker in the history of the University of Jos at the age of 19. Moved on there, to go and set up a social change organization called Rise Networks. And we've extensively focused on youth and education development, excelled to the most unimaginable heights in the last few years. I needed to understand the quality of leadership that was, that we have in Nigeria at the moment. And the Jonathan presidency, for me, I've always, I've recently started to describe as a delicate, a unique, and a complicated presidency. I didn't understand a lot of things that were going on. It baffled me how, in the face of the exigencies, and in the face of the challenges of our country, the monumental challenges building up on a daily basis, how our president in one fell swoop would seem to be at one time extremely sensitive, look like a gentleman, and then on the other side would allow himself to be perceived as a dictator. It baffled me. And
so
as a young person in Nigeria, it was fun for me to move away from the sidelines, to get on the inside and observe. And for me, I've come out of that experience absolutely armed with the next level, with enough lessons to understand, and navigate my life to the next level.
You know, when I first spoke with you about 9 years ago, I can't remember, when Rise just started, I did ask if you would ever run for political office because you seem like somebody who should be a politician. And you said no. Maybe not then.
So for the record, I'm not a card-carrying member of any party.
Yeah.
And for the sake of integrity and personal pedigree, some of us have attained certain levels where you don't approach us with a carrot and stick style. So for me, it wasn't so much about, Toyosi, this is what you're going to get for joining this. I'm not a card carrier. As I sit here, I'm not a card carrying member of any political party.
And you won't be? You don't intend?
I don't see, with what I've learned from the Jonathan campaign, I'm not sure. I think that more than anything, I'm more convinced that if I'm given the opportunity of service, I would go in there because the public service experience would empower me to be able to continue my social change work if I'm given the opportunity to do the work.
So tell me...
But I would not seek elective office. I'm not sure that I will.
At least not at this point in time.
I'm not sure. Not with the current political system, the current political system that is in Nigeria at the moment.
Did you see, like most Nigerians did, and like some of my earlier guests had seen, that Nigerians voted again along ethnic lines? What does that imply to you?
You see, because I'm a student of history, my background is civil law, I'm always very, emotional and somewhat careful when I'm talking about, Nigeria, when generally along the lines of, ethnicity. But something is very clear to me. We are a hugely divided nation. And still. And our politicians, a lot of them are not leaders. A lot of them are just people in positions of authority. one of the crucial lessons I learned working on the Jonathan campaign, which I intend to put into a book and launch sometime in the year. You know, the book is going to be called Power Play in the Changing Room.
And what will we see there? The changing room.
No, in the changing room. I would share a few of my insights. At least before I joined the campaign, I could have told you that if we are 8 members of the board of a bank, all of us are aspiring that bank would succeed. You know, we all have aspirations. You know, we're working assiduously towards the growth and the development of that bank. But coming out of that campaign, I can authoritatively tell you that 8 people can sit on a board of an organization and 4 people are working towards the downfall and the destruction of that organization. It is only this campaign that could have helped me to unravel such mystery. I can also tell you that in the end, the kind of politics that we play in Nigeria has not metamorphosed and matured to the level where it will ultimately benefit our people. It's always been about the interest of the people, and I wonder if our
interest
generation...
of the people who are playing
It's always been in the interest of the people playing the politics. And I hope that my generation would understand that we must not. We currently live in a knowledge economy, and we must not repeat the mistakes of our elders. Fortunately for some of us who have the ears of our elders, this would be the most, crucial time in the history of our nation, where young people need to take a united front and decide on exactly what works for us collectively. So not necessarily for me to become special assistant, or necessarily because I want to be minister or I want to be someone, but because in the end, if power happens to start to work effectively in Nigeria, nobody's going to map out my house on our street and say, well, Toyosi worked on Jonathan's campaign. They're not going to give our house light. So
that brings me to the question we should discuss on the panel, which is the inclusive governance. Oftentimes people say politics, you've done this. When I finish, take. When I finish, take. Is that what inclusive means? For me, the inclusive... Or is that an issue? For me, in fact, if you had followed the narratives, and the opinion of Nigerians on the street, you would have understood that for anybody... That's running up to the elections and beyond. You would have understood that anybody who had made the attempt to have joined the Jonathan campaign had taken a huge risk. The momentum was hugely on the side of the opposition. A lot of our colleagues... on the minds of people. Yes, on the minds of the people. People were just tired. And let me just say this. A lot of people didn't vote for President-elect Buhari because they were convinced that it would make magic. Nigerians generally went out to vote against Jonathan. And they went out to vote against Jonathan because it was seeming as if the president had delegated control to a set of people who had seen Nigeria's government, who had held us hostage, and who had seemed to be there to just basically feather their own nests. One of the things that I have not come to understand is the reason why President Jonathan kept a minister like Abba Moro, the Minister of Interior, who presided over a botched immigration exercise where tons of young people were killed, and you were preparing for an election where you know that young people are the ones leading the conversations and who are ultimately going out to the mistakes were made. It worried me, the quality of advisors and the kind of people that surrounded the president. And you can never, there's certain things you can never understand until you're on the inside. Now you see, taking responsibility and being included in the system is a matter of choice. If you get there and you decide that this is my own opportunity to quickly enrich myself, then you're accountable to your people. But if you go out and come out as confident, this is national television. So if anybody had bribed me and given me, the only time that I ever had the chance to speak on policy to the president, I had said very clearly that in the faces of the choices that I had, I would wish that the president would win, but I would not forgive him if he repeats the mistakes of the first term in the second term. A lot of the people who brought President Jonathan to his knees were the people who surrounded him. And for me, it spoke to me clearly on the issues of leadership and how leadership works in Nigeria and Africa. So what is the message of leadership, therefore? For leadership me, it is crucial. Leaders in Nigeria must surround themselves with people who ultimately are interested in the improvement of their local communities. It is not so much about what I can get for myself, because in the end, we're products of our communities. So it's what you can get for the larger population. It's what we can get for the larger people. So that's the best way to begin. And every time I have the chance to ever speak, I notice a lot of people were always very unsettled. They didn't, and I tell you, you can't. Why? The day that will come, that I will work with a man that I cannot look into his eyes and tell him the truth, that day wouldn't come. But let me tell you the greatest lesson for me. As young people, build capacity, build capacity, build capacity.
The president lost the election. I wasn't happy about it. I wish that a lot of things that were happening in the weeks and the few months to election, those actions were taken 2 years before the time of election came. Because you moved, the people felt like you wanted to exploit them. If we could attack Boko Haram in a matter of 6 weeks, why didn't we do it long before that time?
Absolutely. Well, since this is really not about whether Jonathan lost or won,
Exactly.
it's the implications of that, of the government that's coming in and the implications for Nigerians themselves. So I'll ask you to just take a break. Can I take a break and then we'll continue discussion when the other two people can punch some of the points that you're raising. So we'll take a break and return to the panel section of this program if you don't go away. Thank you, Toyosi, by the way. Thank you. Yes, welcome back. I wish I could make this segment a whole hour because I have very powerful speakers here. So I'm not going to do too much about the intro. I'm going to go straight to remind you that what we're trying to achieve here is to get you to have a better understanding of what an inclusive government means. Is it a chop I chop, or is it about getting everybody's interest, taken care of? So I'm going to start off from the guy on my right, on my left. I'm going to start with, because you are the newest person in the market of politics by all intent of purposes, And how would you say we have run Nigerian government till today, and what does inclusive government mean to you personally?
We've never had a democracy. I would say we've had a kakistocracy, if I use Patrick's English.
Okay, that's
in the sense that we've had a government of the most corrupt, by the most corrupt, for the most corrupt.
Oh, this is not khaki as in khaki uniform.
No, kakistocracy.
Oh, okay.
It's that we've not had the best that Nigeria has to offer. And I think for the first time that we might have a government of the people. And that is what is really exciting me about this new administration. But for the past few years, we've never had a government that involved the people. It's just really been a few people up there that have been running our politics.
And so an inclusive government should mean what?
It should mean a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's it. A government that reaches out to every single person and is not ruling based on which state is in power, but rules based on what the state has to offer to Nigeria.
But Zulu, is that possible in Nigeria where you support a candidate and you expect that when I've finished, who are the real stakeholders? Is it those that supported the party or those that voted along certain lines?
No, of course, the first person that count is the party and the members of the party and the leaders of the party. Don't make any mistake about it. But for me, inclusive government begins when a party, because first a party has to have its manifesto, its programs. But you see, politicians may not necessarily have all the wherewithal to actualize their programs. Inclusive government means for me, apart from the core members of this party or some of those people they feel can help to actualize this goal, the employment of technocrats, professionals, to come together, join the government to actualize their set goals, their programs. That's when you begin to talk about inclusive government.
I just wonder, when you say professionals, technocrats, how do you identify those people? Take, for example, your recent experience.
I think that, so for me, at the point where it is more about what about my personal aggrandizement, above our collective deliverance as a nation, it then negates everything that makes us a decent society as a people. And so my definition and understanding, a minimal understanding of an inclusive government would be a government that speaks to the realities of our people. A government that has a conscience enough to be able to reflect, to ensure that their policies, their plans reflect the deep thought and aspirations of our people. And ultimately, a government that provides on a consistent basis mandatory accountability to our people. Now, so Nigeria belongs to all of us. We have a president-elect. We have governors-elect. If power happens to be better under this new government, I will be proud. I will be a prouder Nigerian when I go to the United Nations this year. If this year more jobs are created for young people, the burden of one person trying to take care of 27 other people is relieved, is taking off that person. And so when we talk about inclusive government, I think that it will be my recommendation that at this point, we should move beyond the politicking. We spent the past 5 months of our lives trying to determine who should represent us at what level. Now, what we require is that the people that we have elected at various levels do not go ahead to be vindictive on anybody, but go ahead to decide that I'm governor of Ondo State, I'm governor of Oyo, I'm governor of Kaduna, I will do well for my people. I'm excited about the quality of people that have emerged. And our democracy is maturing. You have now come to a place where Nigerian people are voting and Nigerians are putting their monies where their mouths are. And for us as young people, it shouldn't be so much about what do I get. Because like I said to you earlier, young people, my advice and my experience from having worked on this campaign, build capacity, build capacity, build capacity. Because now the president is not going to be president. I return to my office, I'm happy, my life is moving on, I'm making impact, I haven't lost any ground. I've come out with lessons I'm going to share with my generation.
So that's the point.
Across Africa. But there's people whose lives have consistently depended on politics for the last 20 years. And many of them, their livelihoods depend on this political system.
Isn't that the point?
How are they going to
isn't that the issue?
Where are they going to move on to?
Absolutely.
Which is the problem of corruption in government. Where are they going to? They have leaned on several governments at federal and state level.
Now their own don't finish.
Now they are finished. And I think that President Jonathan should be commended for that simple, courage, for that simple magnanimity to say, you know what, I'll concede defeat, we're fine. Nigeria has got to move forward. I think I'd like to see, I'd like to see how Nigeria would move on from here. But so much so that we must tell the older people that this is not a time when you're going to be deciding that this is the person who works for my party and this is the person who's going to get office. Because at that point, you are rewarding effort. You are not necessarily filling positions with people who have capacity and competence.
Okay, Toyosi, I must let somebody get in here. Is it wrong to reward effort?
In terms of the political...
Anyway, yeah. I mean, people have supported you to get where you are.
No, I think...
There's quality in the effort.
I think, again, and I say this, that I say, like, corruption is not a peculiar trait to Nigerians. It happens all across the world. If you go to America, there is corruption. They just disguise their corruption. Instead of Ghana must go, they call them lobbyists. That's how their system works. So for someone like President Obama that came into power, he owes a certain level of he came in there because of some people, so he looks out for their interests. It's just that it's not done in the way it is done here in Nigeria, where someone would say, oh, because they say already somebody that lost a constituent, he removed the transformer from, I don't know if you've heard that.
That was the most irresponsible politician out of 2015 elections.
But again, that is, even during the campaigns, when they were asking the VP presidential-elect that, how would you treat states that are not APC, and he said that, well, and it's on record that APC states would have an advantage, Now, that is the issue in the sense that every single state, regardless of how you voted, should be part of the center. You shouldn't...
You are saying lobbying is okay, but how doesn't that make it difficult for other people? Because if you say something like, for example, in Lagos, like he said, why should people be calling for a government that is the same at the top and at the bottom, if not because there will be some advantages?
I didn't get that.
Zulu, they said you can have, people want to say, if I have APC at the top and AP at the bottom, it's better for me.
APC at the top and...
At the state level.
Yeah.
It's better for us. Why must it be better for you because you are aligned to the top?
No, but I think the question you asked for me that's very relevant is this issue of appreciation, reward, and all that. I think it's very important because, if you work for a party, you expect that you get reward, and it's all over the world.
Even if you don't have the capacity.
No, that's what I'm saying. You have to see, where we have to draw the line is how do you compensate someone for the role he played in the political party?
Now, I don't think that everybody who works on a political campaign must be compensated.
No, wait.
I don't expect to start looking for states that align with the president to start trying to get
You can't compensate everyone. But people who play a visible role and contributed to the success of the party anywhere are rewarded in one way or the other. But what is wrong for me is where you bring a very incompetent person simply because he played a role within the party, you hand over a department of the nation's life to that
Which
person.
is why Toyosi said about quality effort.
That's the problem I have.
Where do we leave the place of volunteerism?
Thank you.
Where do we leave the place of good conscience?
Why can't you just...
Where do we leave the place of ultimate good faith? If I believe in my country and I want some level of radical change or whatever it is that we call it, would it not be that I've gone in there? Now, look, I work for this person because I want change. It is my country. I don't need to be in office to be able to effect any relevant change. And I don't agree that people who have contributed, they must get something.
No,
because you see, the people who lead Nigeria altogether are less than 5,000. Yes. All the ministers, the House of Reps, senators, and all these people. No. We can't continue to recycle
but
people.
You must recognize the level of development.
Okay, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way.
Yes.
To make this useful for people who are watching.
Yes.
When we are talking inclusive government, who should we be looking out for? The youth? The people who voted for me, the professionals, the technocrats. Let's each identify what we should be looking at when we're expecting inclusive government. I pick on Toyosi saying, people who have served, they served because they trusted the nation. They wanted to give back to the country.
It's our country, ultimately.
So what should we be doing? What should we be looking out for?
In terms of the country, I mean, the people that need to be included, because 44% of our nation, probably 50%, like, they are youths. You know, that is the critical part of Nigeria, and they've been ignored, in my opinion. If you look at our educational sector, when there are strikes in Nigeria, it's like, it's not critical. You know, every time we have a strike in Nigeria, that means other people around the world going to school are moving ahead of us, one-to-one, every single day.
So it's critical that the youth are not excluded. They were included in the campaigns both ways anyway, for a change.
Well, they're always included, but after the campaign is over, they are forgotten. Are they going to continue after the election is over?
When we are talking about inclusive government, it will mean nothing for me if you cannot get those competent people,
professionals,
technocrat, politicians, who can come to a common table to help reconstruct our values and re-energize the people to work together towards actualizing the destiny of this country.
How will those professionals and technocrats be identified?
It's very clear. If you stay here now, we can sit here together and recognize that Professor Patrick Tommy has been a passionate Nigerian.
So we not nationally acclaimed. What do you think? I saw you do.
There
are quite a number of them.
My position has always been that governance is a mix and mash of politics and policy. And that an inclusive government does not mean that I must be in the corridors of power for me to be included.
Yes.
If I'm a young entrepreneur in this country and the government makes policies that allows me to be able to access loans in the bank, make money for my business and empower people, I am included. If I'm a young person in this country and the government makes policies that allows ASU to not go on strike so that I can complete my education in record time, I am included.
Yeah. If I am a disabled person,
and don't forget that we don't all we cannot all, as a matter of rule and as a matter of providence, be in government. A few of us are going to get opportunities to work in government. How about the rest of us being their voices of conscience? How about the rest of us supporting the ones who get the opportunity to work in government?
Yeah, but you see,
that way, ultimately, Nigeria is greater than all of us. It doesn't matter what side that you
I told you that these are my people. We finish, but we must round up. Each person, round up, 2 seconds. Round up your last statements for the viewers. Last statement for the viewers.
What I would say is that for this government is that you have to be smart. Don't make extreme promises. We have to be smart with the issues we face.
This government must recognize the fact that Nigerians have some brilliant, passionate, patriotic people that are willing to help in reconstructing the destiny of this country. It is a tragedy that people like Ribadu lost their election.
Okay, I don't want us to get specific. The point is, find the professionals. You are very particular about professionals
to contribute in rebuilding the soul of this nation.
Toyosi.
So President Jonathan made very sterling efforts in the face of a lot of distractions, and in the face of in the face of being surrounded by a set of very disloyal people.
And so?
And my position at this time would be that has set the momentum on the side of the incoming government. Nigerians have expectations like never before.
Absolutely.
And so there's a tendency that whatever it is that we have described Jonathan's administration as, if this incoming government does not recognize what they should do and hit the ground running, they will probably be, they will probably,
in worse trouble.
They will probably, Nigeria will probably experience more trouble in the coming days. But trust me, I think that, we've come to a place of, peace. We've come to a place where we've reached a truce as a nation. And more than anything, Shehu Sani, a far away, a distance mentor, made a statement that is instructive in my life. He said that of all the institutions of a democratic, of all the institutions of democracy, there is none as formidable as an active and conscious citizenry. Nigerians must consistently focus not just on the mistake Nigerians also make is to focus excessively on the federal government.
Yeah.
We must start to ask our governors, our local government chairman, and even our councillors, our senators and House of Reps. The president cannot lead the country alone.
Well, this is the beginning. I must go. Thank you so much. We must do a part 2, I'm sure. But I would say, please don't forget the people with physical challenges as much as possible. So those of us who can fight for people on the side, raise our voices. Remember the women, the young people, and those with disabilities. Don't forget them. But more importantly, remember, it's the citizenry that actually has the power. So at the end of the day, if in 4 years we're not happy, we can always vote and make a change again. So we'll see you again next week. Thank you for watching.